Ayo, what up? Welcome to the Overtime Sports Show, brought to you by Superfly 64 and JSNL Clothing. I'm the host tonight, Tipsy McStagger, aka Wesley Carr, and I got the homeboy crossover on the line.
What's going on, guys?
Chilling was good, and today we're gonna try a little bit of a different format here. We're just gonna take some topics. It's gonna be me and crossover tonight, so we should get a good back and forth on a couple of topics I got going on. The first thing I want to talk about really is the NFL free agency period is about to start next week, where the free agents will start signing. There's a lot of talk about Wes Welker, Greg Jennings, and all these defensive backs out there. Crossover, what do you think as far as free agency? Who's the best free agent pickup? Who's the worst? And which team needs the most help?
You shouldn't probably ask me that question because I'm a Jets fan, so I always think we're gonna need a lot of help. Um, I don't know. I mean, the last couple of years, the NFL has really gone from a couple of really dominant teams to really, you know, a really like level playing field. And a few different teams could use a position or two, but for the most part, I really think that it's been really level. A couple teams could use some good wide receiver help. Luckily, it's a big wide receiver class. Like you said, Wes Welker, Greg Jennings. DB seems to be another big spot because it's become more of a passing league. So you need to get really deep with your secondary.
Exactly.
Um,
Speaking of DBs, I don't mean to cut you off. Darrell Revis, since you said you're a Jets fan,
mhm.
the whole thing with
uh,
Darrell Revis, I mean, this guy, I mean, I understand he's a good corner or whatever like that, but he seems to think that he's a little better than he actually is. And coming off of ACL surgery, he's making a lot of demands that seem to be kind of outrageous if you ask me. Me myself personally, I'm a Patriots fan, and if he wanted to come to the Patriots, I'd welcome him. But at the same time, he's talking 15, he's talking 15, $16 million a year, and realistically, I don't think that he can get that.
I disagree. I think he's definitely earned that. I think he's got a good resume. The ACL tear, that's one thing. But as long as he comes back, as long as he's healthy, he's technically still under contract this year, so he's definitely going to be able to play. Prove through his play that what he's worth. Um, but the problem with him was when the Jets gave him the contract a couple years ago, he really came back out and said that he was just gonna hold out again when it was time for a new contract. So it's one of those things where it depends on the team. Like for instance, I think going to the Patriots, I really think that like Belichick would really keep him in check a little bit. It's just one of those like hothead ego kind of things. And the Jets have enough of that on their plate already with all their other whack jobs on the roster. So, um,
And
you know, it,
a little off topic. I know we're talking about free agency on the Overtime Sports Show here, but is it with the Jets? Is it just a discipline problem, or is it just a complete lack of control from the top down?
I think it's kind of a little bit mixture of both. You have Rex Ryan, who's really kind of that carefree. My players are going to say what they're going to say as long as they can back it. Kind of, that's kind of his mentality. Plus, they brought in a lot of the people, like your Bart Scotts, like your Dale Revis, who really are those type of people that are just going to say what they're going to say. So you kind of get that mix of carefree coach with the media, plus you got those players who really just are going to do what they're going to do, and it's just really kind of like the perfect storm to really create that like circus atmosphere. Um, I really personally feel like Rex Ryan not really the best handler of situations. He really needs to go back to defensive coordinating somewhere.
He should be
Um,
fired. The guy, I think he should be fired as a head coach. Like, if they're going to make a whole bunch of changes, they got to start with him. They got rid of the GM or whoever, and
yeah,
they got
Tannenbaum's gone.
they got rid of all these people, and they kept him there, and they kept Mark Sanchez, which I think is a
You
mistake in itself.
know, Mark Sanchez. I'm not trying to be a homer or anything like that, but I've always felt like up until this past year, with the whole circus with Tebow and everything. Like, he really hasn't played as bad as everyone's kind of made it out to make him be. Every year he started out in his rookie year, went to the AFC Championship game. Granted, he didn't have a great statistical year, but when he got time to the playoffs, he had a fantastic playoff run. You lost to Peyton Manning in the second half. A lot of people could be put on that list that have lost to Peyton in the second half. The second year they made some personnel changes, got rid of Thomas Jones, who was coming off of back-to-back 1,300-yard seasons, and they got rid of him. LT, LT was still solid, but he was well past his prime, and they got rid of more personnel and said, all right, do more with less. Again, took him back to the AFC Championship game. He beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady that year on the road. And then they said, all right, they lost in the AFC Championship game to the Pittsburgh. And then they came back the next year, got rid of Braylon, which was one of his best targets. They had the offensive line was really depleted, and they said, all right, now do more with less. And we went 8-8. Then this past year, just everything hit the fan.
Yeah.
So, Sanchez, he's really had, I feel like a worse rep than he really deserved. If he was playing somewhere in like Arizona or one of those smaller market teams, I really feel like none of this heat would have really been on him as much as it has been. You're in New York, you're going to be on the back pages at the times.
It's New York, and it doesn't help that in the same stadium you got Eli Manning winning 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really kind of just like that circus atmosphere of New York in general. Plus, you really got the coach, the head coach that I feel like he just needs to go. And it's just one of those perfect storm events.
All right. So off that, we're going to talk about the trade that happened last week with Alex Smith going to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that this is a good deal for Alex Smith, which I would like to see him stay with San Francisco. But I think it's a good deal for Alex Smith. He gets a fresh start. He gets a good quarterback, head coach in Andy Reid. They got a couple of good players. They got a couple of good players up there on offense, and the defense is kind of lazy, but it's still young, and his coaching staff should probably be able to get them together. Do you think the trade for Alex Smith is a good trade for the Chiefs, or do you think they gave up too much because they gave up a second-round pick and a conditional pick for the following year's draft?
No, I think it was a great pick for the great pickup for the Chiefs. You look at the draft class. There's really not there's not really like that high profile Robert Griffin or Cam Newton or there's not really like that big time quarterback prospect. Geno Smith's probably going to cash in a lot more than he should just because of the low supply and the high demand for quarterbacks. So yeah, in a down year for quarterbacks coming out of college, I feel like getting Alex Smith for a second round pick. He's an established veteran quarterback. He's still 28, I think. So he's still pretty relatively young. They really didn't give up a whole lot for him. Look at what he's done the last couple of years. 2011, he had one of his strongest years, and he really started out strong in 12, and he just got a concussion at the wrong time. And I really felt like he should have, once he was healthy and cleared to play, I really felt like he should have been thrown back out there.
Seemed like he was kind of set up to ride the bench once he got hurt.
Well, if Kaepernick came out there and threw 3 interceptions that first game, Alex Smith goes out there, no problem. But they kind of rolled the dice a little bit. They got to the Super Bowl. It's not like you can't really consider the year a failure by any means when your backup quarterback comes in and you go to the Super Bowl. But Alex Smith really kind of, I think with his recent level of play, he really kind of earned that chance to go back out there once he was healthy. So really fresh start for him. The only problem with that now is it's another new system he's got to learn. His first 6 years, every year he had a new offensive coordinator. So it was every year was a new system. So, now you kind of have to take that step back again I don't think he's going to put up the numbers he was putting up in 11 and start 12, but a fresh start will be good. New offense, it might be a little bit growing pains, but now he's got a big time receiver in Dwayne Bowe. That's a good outlet. They just signed him, I think, 5-year extension. So hopefully they can develop a good system together.
All right. Right now we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back.
What's going on? This is Fuego Beats from Fuego Beats Radio, and I want to tell everyone to check out the greatest sci-fi radio station out, Super 64 on Blog Talk Radio. They have the best topics, including sci-fi films, comic books, video games, and they even have a featured artist segment for musicians weekly. So if you have an obsession with sci-fi films, music, or video games like me, then this is the station for you. Make sure you check them out on blogtalkradio.com/Super564. That's blogtalkradio.com/SUPAFI64. All right? And remember, stay connected.
Log in, FuegoBeats.com, YouTube, Mr. Fuego Beats.
All right, welcome back to the Overtime Sports Show. I'm your host, Tipsy, and I got my man Crossover with me.
What's going on, Tipsy?
What's going on, man? Chilling. And now for the next segment of the show, we're going to talk about the winding down the NBA season and the NBA playoffs. And we're going to have a couple predictions here between myself and Crossover as to who wins the NBA championship. So about 20 games left in the season. The games are starting to get tough. A lot of interconference games. Everybody battling for seeding. We already know that the San Antonio Spurs, for whatever reason, are still the dominant team in the West. How they do it with all the old players that they got, I don't know. And of course,
that's just 15 years of really gelling together. I mean, it's just the same core of guys that they've had forever, and they just know how to play off each other. It's just you really can't. Yeah, you can't teach that. That just comes with time.
This is true too. And of course, in the East, we have the Miami Heat leading the East on a 16-game winning streak. So, outside two teams, the seeding from 2 to 8 is really pretty much up for grabs. So let's start with the Western Conference. Crossover. Who do you feel outside of San Antonio has a chance to really make noise in the playoffs?
You can never count out the Clippers. The Clippers got a really good 1-2. Pretty much any of those teams, they got that 1-2. OKC is pretty dominant. I feel like they're young, and they're one of those teams that could go deep and not get tired.
I feel like OKC though, they lost something when they got rid of James Harden. Like that spark off the bench. Like you've seen it in games where they just can't compete later in the games when their stars get tired.
See, my problem with that though is if they had James Harden on the team right now, no one would be talking about how valuable he is. He would just be another role player. And now that they don't have him, like I don't know, I feel like everyone's making a bigger deal out of James Harden being gone than it actually is. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think it is a big deal. I think that when you put in your second string players, you need that one spark off the bench. It's kind of like how Jamal Crawford continues to get these big deals in the NBA because off the bench, there's not a lot of people that can give you 20 points consistently off the bench day in and day out, and James Harden is one of those guys when Russell Westbrook is chucking up shots that he shouldn't be taking, and you want to pull him out the game, you don't really got nobody to replace him with. Kevin Martin is not a good replacement for James Harden. He's not, and he'll probably be gone at the end of the season anyway, and they'll try to bring somebody else in that's a little better that they can try to convince to be that third guy and that sixth man off the bench. But when you watch games where teams that they would normally dominate in the second half of games, they struggle because they don't have that key player off the bench to come and make those points.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. I don't know. I just felt like when they had James Harden, there wasn't really that much hype around him. I felt like he was just another wheel in the another gear turning. Like I felt like there wasn't really much depth, as far as really really appreciating his talents. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like he was just there as another guy coming off the bench. I mean, maybe I completely wasn't paying attention. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think they miss him, and I think they won't say it, but come to playoff time when they need that late game surge, that Durant and Westbrook aren't going to be able to give them because they're going to play so many minutes throughout the game that they just don't have that, and they'll miss that.
Well, I mean, they're still relatively young. Like, I mean, I feel like they're really they could probably do this for another couple years, before they're just completely worn out. But I mean, I feel like they're both Durant and Westbrook can really, I feel like that won't really bother them too much going deep into the playoff runs. I feel like they could handle that minute, those amount of minutes.
Okay, so conference finals, Western Conference. Who do you got?
Depends on seeding, depends on matchups. I mean, I really feel like the Clippers and OKC are really the two of the stronger teams. San Antonio. I mean, they're always dominant, but then if you ever notice, they really kind of fizzle out toward the end of the playoffs just because they're so old and they're really wearing down. The Lakers, complete disappointment this year. But I said it the last time I was on the show. It was in January. I said the Lakers are going to catch, they're going to catch momentum. They're going to make a late run, and now they're one game out with 20 games to go.
Yeah,
they're a team. They're a team that really could. They could do damage. They're deep enough. They have a ton of talent on the squad. I really feel like if they can just get hot at the right moment. Basketball really is like that momentum game. They can just really catch momentum at the end. They might be able to do a little bit of damage. I don't know. I mean, who do you think will be representing the West?
The Western Conference. I mean, I would really have to take a hard look. It's hard to go against San Antonio, especially after last season's playoffs when they basically swept the first two rounds before they ran into OKC, and they won the first two games of that series, I think. So it's hard to go against them. I think the Clippers. I think if the Clippers or all their players are truly healthy, that they can get to the conference finals. And I think they just have enough firepower. They have enough off the bench to beat OKC because they have Crawford coming off the bench. They just picked up Kenyon Martin. They got Grant Hill coming off the bench. Even though he's 40, he still can hit the jumper. They have enough to come off the bench in late games to be able to sustain a late run by the Thunder in a playoff matchup. So I would say conference finals, it would probably be the Clippers and the Spurs. And I think that the Clippers have just enough energy to where they can get to the finals.
Okay. All right. What about the East?
Now, the East, outside of, I'll say, the Heat, the Knicks, and the Pacers, I mean, I don't see really anybody else. I see the Heat in the conference finals, but I just don't think I don't think that anybody that plays the Heat in the playoffs is going to stop them from getting to the conference finals. So, short of seeding wise, I would say that if they don't have to play the Knicks, I think the Knicks, if the Knicks can get hot and they can knock down those threes like they did before, that they could make it. Depending on seeding, they could challenge the Heat in the conference finals. But ultimately,
that's what I like to hear.
Ultimately, I think the Heat are they're just way too good. And it's not even like just LeBron James. Like, they're just way too good. Like, he's a beast. Dwayne Wade is being underrated this year, but he's playing lights out. He's been healthy, and nobody's really talking about him. And he's been just blazing teams left and right. Ray Allen, Shane Battier. I mean, three-pointers galore. Mike Miller, like, if you try to stop them inside, they're going to hit the threes on the outside. And their defense is amazing. And it's just too much speed and just too much raw talent out there.
Yeah. But you think my Knicks got a shot, though?
They don't even need a coach.
Right? Yeah. You see, I'm going to be coaching the Heat next year. You know.
I think the Knicks have a shot, but they have to first be healthy. They have to figure out how to rein in the difference in the Heat in the Knicks going to the finals and the Heat going to the finals is J.R. Smith and Amari Stoudemire. J.R. Smith has to understand that they don't expect him to score 35 points tonight.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to pick his shots, stop chucking up 3 after 3 after 3, because once the crowd gets hyped, he gets hyped. And once he gets hyped, he thinks he can shoot everything under the sun. And he will shoot them out of games just as fast as he'll shoot them into a game.
No, okay.
So they have to be able to rein him in. And Amari Stoudemire has to go hard in the paint. They have to use their size against Miami because Miami has no size in the middle. They got Chandler, they got Camby, they got Stoudemire. You know, these guys.
Melo's what, 6'7", 6'6"?
They got
Melo's a
Melo.
big boy too.
They got Melo, but Melo is going to be on LeBron James, which he can't guard LeBron James either. So, you know, they gotta pick their poison. Let LeBron do what he does, and stop the perimeter game. Stop those extra passes out to wide open Ray Allen in the corner, which you know he's going to be. So keep somebody on him at all times. Yeah. He's going to hit that corner 3-pointer. If you leave him open for 5 seconds, it's over. So they've got to do that. They've got a game plan right. You can't stop LeBron James. So even if he scores 50, the rest of the team still has to score. Shut down the rest of the team and let him do what they got to do. You got to treat him like Jordan. Try to let Jordan do what he got to do and try to stop everybody else.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question now. How much pressure do you think is on Carmelo to win it this year? I mean, is there, out of that draft class, LeBron finally got his ring. Wade's got some rings. Like Melo was that other real big part of that draft. Like, how much pressure is on him?
I think a lot of pressure is on him. Because now he's getting, 28, 29, 30 years of age here, where the clock starts to tick a little bit faster. It was good when you was 18 and 19 and you had time, but now you're at that time. It's going to start to become like a Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley thing, where, Charles Barkley was that second great player with Barkley and Malone and all of them that, didn't get to the finals until, later on in their careers, and they just didn't have enough left in them to really make sustained runs at the championship. The fact that he's playing for the Knicks and that LeBron and Wade and others playing for Miami makes it that much harder. I really think that he should go ahead and he may get a chance to hit because the Heat can't repeat and win back to back. So, he may get a shot at here, and if he gets that shot, he's got to capitalize. He's got to go hard, and he's got to be able to, just go all for it because he might not get too many chances unless he goes back to the West. No, he said he got kicked out.
Hey, I got kicked off.
I was trying to sustain the conversation when he put the message up.
You don't go to the commercial then.
According to the Mayans, get a grip, you can't contain me.
Yeah, this is Rhubarb, and you are listening to Fuego Beach Radio, the #1 online radio station for emerging artists.
Welcome back to the Overtime Sports Radio Show. I'm your host, Tipsy, and I got my boy with me today, Crossover. What's up?
What's going on, guys?
All right, chilling, having a good conversation here. We're going to get back into the conversation of finishing up with the NBA playoffs. We were talking about the conference finals. Knicks Heat is what we got to. And I said that the Heat would probably come out of the West, which would leave us with a LA Clippers, Miami Heat finals, which I'm sure people would love. Get Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, LeBron, Dwayne Wade. I mean, it would probably be one of the most explosive NBA finals that you could see. So, Crossover, a Heat Clippers finals, which seems like 2 years ago, which seems like something you would never ever say. Who would you take in a 7-game series, Clippers and Heat?
I mean, you almost have to go Heat. There's really, you almost have to go Heat for the next foreseeable future. I hate to say it, man. It tastes like vinegar coming out my mouth, but I mean, yeah, you got to go Heat maybe like 6 games.
Heat in 6. This is a good one because I really think that, matchup wise, it would really be a challenge for Miami because you got to look at the makeup of the team as far as even like the benches. I think if it came down to the benches, that the Clippers might have the edge because, like I said, they have a Jamal Crawford who can hit the three, who can take it to the hole, who is good defensively, and is able to frustrate a player like a Shane Battier or like a Ray Allen, who are more spot up shooters, but he can disrupt their rhythm, get in their heads a little bit to get them out of rhythm. And as we saw last year in the finals against OKC, if the Heat aren't hitting those threes, they can be beat. They figured it out after game 1, and then all of a sudden Mike Miller started hitting shot after shot after shot after shot, and it was just too much for them to stop. Even though LeBron was doing his thing, those 3-pointers that they were knocking down, really just took the wind out of Oklahoma City. So
yeah, but
while I say the Heat you say the Heat in 6, I really think that because the Heat have already been there, it would be their 3rd time in a row going there, that it probably would only last short of a sweep. I would say like 5 games.
You think Heat in 5?
Miami, I would think Miami in 5 because they've been there. Like I said, it would be their 3rd time. Like, there's not really that much nerves there anymore. They got pretty much the same team. They've added Ray Allen from the year prior, which they really didn't need, but they've got him, and he's been to the finals a couple of times. He's got a ring. All he can do is step his game up and just hit those same threes that he's been hitting.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, so I really just don't want to see the Heat winning in.
I'm sure nobody does. But right now, I mean, there's nobody in the East really that can just dominate them. The Knicks did it a couple of times, but that was early on when they were hitting threes. And, you can't do that a whole season.
But I've noticed once LeBron finally won, a lot of I don't want to say that the haters shut up, but I think like it's just one of those things where like the Heat are just so interesting to watch and it's just so like fluid the way they play that like a lot of people are now just sitting back and just like getting to watch them. It's not really like that weight on their shoulder anymore that they have to win. LeBron has to win a ring. It's really just now they just get to sit back and just watch them play basketball. And a lot of people are really starting to just kind of come around and appreciate it. I'm not one of those people because I can't stand them, but
it's definitely good basketball to watch. It's exciting. I mean, they play defense and they score a lot of points. So, teams, even people that love to watch.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it's just really good basketball. On both sides of the court too. So, it's just really one of those things where, just being able to watch it without having to worry about, is LeBron going to get his ring? He's already got one. So.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. I think that's what you're seeing this season is that he got the ring. The criticism, kind of goes away a little bit. He can be carefree and play the way that he wants to play and entertain. And, that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're entertaining. And while entertaining, they're also, probably going to win about 65, 66 games this year.
Mm-hmm.
Which
right.
is, which they've been on this 16-game winning streak. At one point they were 29-14, and a couple of teams were, like on their heels as far as taking over first place. Now they're 45, 46-14, and there's no stopping them. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't lose any more games the rest of the season.
You think so? You think they're gonna win out?
I don't think they're gonna win them all, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, their team is healthy. LeBron is healthy. They're all playing lights out. Bosh is playing better than he was last season. I think he's more comfortable now in his role, that he doesn't have to score 25 points a night like he did in Toronto. And I think, the bench is a little better. The bench is getting better. You know, some of the role players are really playing their roles and not trying to, you know, shoot the lights out every night. They come in and do what they need to do. You know, their defense is solid. Like, I mean, their defense is ridiculous for a team that scores 100+ points a night.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their defense is locked down. And when they want to lock it down, they're gonna lock it down. So, I mean, it's just amazing to watch, and they just have that. They gelled together, you know, so well that there's not really much bad you can say about them, but at the same time, it's like, you know, you got to be a fan of just the way they play. You don't got to be a fan of the team, the way that they play. It's like, it's entertaining and amazing.
All right, so now let me ask you this question. All right, MVP, you got. Let's say you can't put both LeBron or Wade. I'm gonna go with LeBron. You're gonna go Melo or Kevin Durant.
I want to say LeBron James because he's just so consistent in what he does, and he makes that team way better, you know, with him being on the floor. At the same time, I don't think unless Melo can really do something, I mean, he would have to really, like, because when did they give out the MVP? Like in the conference finals?
Something like that. It's
something like that.
Finals.
Like he would have to get them, you know, at least past the first round of the playoffs to even think that he may have a chance. I think Kevin Durant may get it just on a, you know, he's Kevin Durant, and even though he's a star player, he's kind of forgotten when they talk about some of the dominant players that are playing right now, because he's not as flashy as LeBron, he's not as hyped as LeBron, but he's still a good player. And I think some of the stigma from the finals last year may still be rubbing some voters the wrong way, to where they're like, you know, he kind of disappeared a little bit in the finals when they needed him most. So if they struggle, you know, coming down the stretch, or they struggle in like the first round of the playoffs, I don't really think that he would get it. Other than it's just, we give it, LeBron's won 3 out of 4 or whatever, so we're going to shuffle it up a little bit and give it to somebody else.
Are there any dark horse candidates, you think?
A dark horse candidate for MVP, I would have to say Tony Parker, or even Chris Paul to an extent. I think that his team, the fact that he's turned his team around in the year and a half that he's been playing there, I think deserves a lot of MVP consideration. But I think that they're going to kind of shy away from that because they're going to try to say, you know, all he does is, you know, alley-oop the ball up to Blake Griffin. You know, that's pretty much what it is. It's just a dunk show, whatever. They're going to try to do anything to not really get it there. Although I think he should be at least place second in the voting. I would be surprised if he places any less than third in the voting because it's the Clippers. You know, just because it's the Los Angeles Clippers. The same way like Kurt Warner should automatically be a first ballot Hall of Famer because he took the Arizona Cardinals to the Super Bowl and almost won it. So, you know, it's that kind of dynamic when you look at Chris Paul and the Clippers. Like they've been bad for so long. The fact that they've only lost 19 games is like amazing. You know, it's amazing, and you know that alone should get him the MVP. But they're gonna, you know, they got to put him up against LeBron. And when you see what LeBron is doing, I mean, this guy's just, you know, an assist and a rebound shy of averaging a triple double for a season.
Yeah,
you know?
but
280 pounds. He's dominant.
Yeah, I mean, as big as he is, he's so freaking fast. But I want to ask you this though: you take LeBron off the Heat and you take CP3 off of the Clippers. You know, which team suffers more? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you take
the Clippers would suffer
Yeah.
more than the Heat would, because the Heat were going to the playoffs without LeBron before he was even there.
Right. So then why, based on that, why wouldn't you give Chris Paul MVP over LeBron? He's much more valuable to his team than LeBron is.
But I think the argument, I see what you're saying. I think the argument helps and hurts Chris Paul because he should get MVP because he plays for the Clippers, and at the same time he shouldn't get MVP because he plays for the Clippers. And it's like it's a double-edged sword when you think about certain players and certain teams and why they don't get a lot of MVP talk, regardless of how good they are. I mean, if that's the case, Tim Duncan should have like 7 MVP awards for just the Spurs being so dominant year in and year out. He's won 4 NBA championships, and nobody really ever discusses him a lot because he plays for the Spurs. But he's won 4 NBA championships because he plays for the Spurs. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's really kind of iffy and kind of shaky when it comes to certain players.
Do you think Tim Duncan's going to be around a lot longer or no?
I think Tim Duncan. No, I think he'll play out this contract. I mean, as long as Popovich does what he does to keep them, healthy, get them the rest that they need, and that he can go. He's got a 3-year deal. I think he'll if he wants to, he'll play out for 3 years and then he'll retire. But if not, if he wants to go after this year, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I mean, he doesn't have anything else left to prove.
Yeah, true. I'd love to see him keep playing, but I don't want to see him, kind of fall into like that Grant Hill role where he's just coming off the bench for a little bit here and there. Like, I really would rather see him go out on his own terms, as opposed to kind of being diminished. Like, if his time's coming, I'd want him to go out on his own.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a quick commercial. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more Overtime Sports Radio Show brought to you by Super 564 and JSNL. We'll be back in short.
My Green Bay Packers.
Hello again. This is Anthony Ramirez from Ramirez Internet Solutions. Right now we are in the season of launching a new division of our business called RewardWatcher.com. RewardWatcher.com is an avenue for businesses and consumers to buy and sell all their goods and services at affordable rates. Right now, this service is available to the DMV area only, but the more it grows, the more we plan on expanding up and down the East Coast and eventually west. Right now, we are in the introductory phase of RewardWatcher.com, so if you sign up now, your listings will be free all the way until March. Also, we will be beginning an initiative program for our users. For every paid listing that you bring to us, you will receive a month of free listings. To learn more or to post your listing, please visit www.rewardwatcher.com. That address again is at www.rewardwatcher.com, or you can give us a call at 571-989-2392, or you can email us at help@rewardwatcher.com. Again, that's help@rewardwatcher.com. Thank you, and we look forward to you helping us make this program a success.
Hey, yo, what up? It's your boy Tipsy. Welcome back to the Overtime Sports Radio Show. I got my co-host with me, Crossover. What's up?
What's going on?
Not much, man. Sitting here enjoying this good conversation. We're talking about sports here. And now, as you all know, it's March 8th. Springtime is coming. And with springtime comes one of my favorite sports is baseball. Now, it's a good time and a sad time for me because, as most of you probably heard, the great Mariano Rivera is going to retire at the end of the season, being an all-time save leader and having played for my team, the Yankees, all of his career. At the same time, my team's not looking so hot. We got a lot of injuries. We lost a lot of people to free agency, and we're all a year older. Also, we got a WBC World Baseball Classic, which even as a baseball fan, I don't care about because of the fact that it happens only like every 4 years, and if that's the case, it might as well be part of the Olympics. But Crossover, are you a big baseball fan, or are you just kind of like a,
Oh yeah. Well, I grew up in New York City. I'm a big Mets fan. My family gave me the worst teams to root for. I swear. Yeah, I love baseball. I actually like the WBC a lot. I mean, I really think it's pretty cool. You know, you get to see a lot of like the younger guys, a lot of like the prospect guys who don't really get their chance to shine in the pros yet. You know, really kind of get to display their talents. I think it's pretty cool. I like that it's only once every couple years.
Okay, I mean, I can see it from that point. But I think my thing is that the games are just kind of all spread out. They're all different times, and half the time you're at work or you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, I think there's a game on right now, and I have no idea
Yeah, but
exactly what's
the
going
good
on.
thing the good thing about baseball is like, you know, there's so many games that you don't have to watch it all. Baseball is a game that you could actually just follow.
Yeah,
You know, like
it is
you could just pull up a box score and be like, oh yeah, look, you know, A-Rod took 5 steroids and hit 2 home runs today.
basically. And let's talk a little bit about, even though the season doesn't start for another few weeks. Let's talk a little bit about the steroid issue here in baseball. I mean, honestly, do you really care? I mean, I don't really care so much. I mean, if my team is winning, I don't really care what they're doing. They're doing it to themselves. They're not really hurting anybody other than themselves. I mean, for years and years of baseball, people have always been doing something. You know,
Yeah,
their
back in like the
players.
60s and 70s, they were taking
They
uppers. You know, they were
Yeah,
doing everything.
they've admitted. Hall of Fame players have admitted to taking what they call them greenies and uppers and energy pills and all these different things to get a little extra edge. So the next logical step of taking a caffeine pill would be to take something like a steroid or something that will,
Mhm.
you know, for the most part, give you extra energy, allow you to heal faster, do whatever. Now, granted, if you use it enough, you can damage yourself. But honestly, as fans don't really care whether they take steroids or not. You
Yeah,
know,
because I mean, as a fan, you're watching, you know, more home runs, more strikeouts. You're watching, you know, higher level of play. I mean, I don't really care anymore. Like, I mean, I'm so over steroids. You know, let Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, let Roger Clemens in. Um, you know, I'm not what you'd call a baseball purist. I just like, you know, I like to follow it more than anything. Um, so yeah, you know, I mean, you also have to think about. All right, Barry Bonds had 763 home runs. How many of those came off a pitcher who was on steroids? You know?
exactly, and that's what my argument is when I have discussions. I have outside discussions with people is that, you know, how do you know the pitchers who pitch against weren't trying steroids or trying human growth hormone or all these other things? You know, you're focused on the guy hitting the ball, but you're not focused on the guy throwing the ball. Like, you know, pitchers don't get popped as much as as the hitters do, especially the power hitters. But some pitchers do get popped. And so you got to think, if the pitchers are getting popped and the batters are getting popped, you know, who's to say that there's an unfair advantage in what's going on and what's happening here? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
it's one of those sports where, you know, people gotta understand baseball, they play 162 games in the sun. Like, you know, it's a 6 months, it's like 6 months, 7 months of a sport, including the playoffs and everything. Now almost 8 months because it goes into November. Like, you'd be crazy not to take something. Like, I played baseball as a kid and standing out in the outfield, you know, at 9 or 10 years old, that sun is blazing on you. That sun
Yeah.
is blazing on you. It is unbearable. Makes it not fun. Like, you have to really love to play baseball and want to be out there and damn near get a heat stroke trying to wait for somebody to hit a ball that might not even get to the outfield. So, you know, it's a lot of dedication and still a lot of training and a lot of everything to really be a good baseball player. You know,
Yeah.
so the steroids are just a small part of it. I think they just use it as an excuse for baseball, quote unquote, purists to try to hold people to standards of something that happened like 120 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, think about, you know, I mean, you know, like we said, you know, everyone that's on steroids. I mean, you know, you still have to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Exactly. Exactly. You
Still
still
have
have
to
to hit the baseball. You still have to hit the baseball, and it's not it's not easy to hit a baseball. People
Yeah.
always say like, "Oh, I could hit that. I could hit that." It's not easy. I've been to the batting cage and put it on the super fast pitch, and it's coming like 94 miles an hour, and trying to hit it in the batting cage. It's not easy, and it's terrifying. So, you know,
Yeah.
when that ball is whizzing in there, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. So, you know, these guys, you got to be big, you got to be strong, you got to be able to have that type of coordination and contact to hit that ball, because basically you're basically almost playing professional stickball, like you would play in the streets. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? The bat's a little thicker, but the ball is pretty much the same. And it's, you know, it takes a lot. It's still a lot of talent behind it. Even without steroids, Barry Bonds probably hits 700 home runs. Maybe he doesn't get the extra 63. But even without it, he's going to hit 500-600 home runs, maybe 700 anyway. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was on pace. He was on pace to be the only guy in baseball history to go 500 home runs, 500 steals. I mean, that was before he was big beefed up.
That was before, and I mean, everybody. I mean, they try to treat the fans and the public like we're stupid. We know somebody's on steroids. We saw Barry Bonds in Pittsburgh, and then saw him year 2 in San Francisco. Nobody gets that big.
You know what's the funny thing is, you know, it came out A-Rod was on roids in 2001 when he was still on the Rangers. But, you know, when he was hitting 55 home runs every year, how come no one ever talked about steroids? You know, how come it wasn't until after the fact that he was already on a decline in his career? You know, Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs. There wasn't really much steroid talk, you know, out in the media and everything until way after the fact. You know, like, you know, baseball.
Like, you know, we're going to celebrate you now. We're going to punish you later.
Yeah, exactly. You know, while he's on that 73 home run chase, or, you know, whatever it was to break the record, you know, Mark McGwire's record, you know, they wanted people to be in the stands to watch all those games, you know, so, you know, that they're not going to come out with steroid allegations till after the fact. So I feel like baseball is a little bit hypocritical in that sense. If they really care about steroids the way they did, you know, lock it down beforehand, not after they've already sold out however many venues.
Exactly. They get all the money, and then they say, well, wow, we got all the money, so, you know, what are we going to do about this guy now?
Yeah. So,
you know. Okay, so,
yeah, that's where I stand with it. I'm so sick of steroids.
Basically. Okay, so off that, you know, the season's coming up. The Mets made some moves. You know, a lot of teams have made some moves, particularly Atlanta Braves, who are in the division with the Mets, who signed Justin Upton and made a trade for DJ Upton to bolster their outfield and try to replace some of the production from Chipper Jones retiring. Mm-hmm. The National League East, with the Nationals being good, Steven Strasburg, Bryce Harper, living up to the hype.
They picked up Dan Herron as well.
Yeah, they signed Dan Herron. You know, so they bolstered their pitching staff. They're bringing back basically their core, you know, they're starting 8 on the bases. So, you know, the Mets, they traded R.A. Dickey, which I think is a mistake. They should have just gave him the deal that he wanted to get. I mean, he basically was the only bright spot on their team for the most part. For the most part, last year.
The Mets farm system they have a lot of arms in their system, though. I mean, I'm being realistic here. The Mets are probably not going to contend for another year or two. You know, Ike Davis is still developing power. You know, why not trade Dickey? They got a really good prospect catcher. You know, they got some more arms for their farm system. You know, R.A. Dickey had his first good season at 38. You know, like, it's just one of those things where, you know, you kind of get what you can get for him while you can get it.
True. That's true. Like, and they still have David Wright at third base, which is, you know, offensively, he's consistent as long as he can stay healthy. And he signed that new long-term extension, so he's basically going to retire a Met, barring anything amazing happening. But it just seems like the teams around the Mets had their chances to dominate, and now those teams that were at the bottom have started to come to the top, mainly the Nationals, who basically surprised everybody by winning 96, 97 games last year, and showing that they came from nowhere. Nobody expected them. At best, they had them pegged as a third place team, you know, maybe a 500 team, and, you know, with Strasburg dominating, Gio Gonzalez and everybody else, and then Bryce Harper coming up, halfway through the first month and a half and just being, pretty much, what they thought he would be. He can only get better as a player. If you've ever seen him on YouTube when he was still in high school, he was, bombing home runs. We haven't even seen anything that close yet, so he can only get better and only get to the level that they truly think he is going to be at. And, me and the Nationals are definitely a team to beat. With the Phillies, a strong second because I think they're going to be healthy this year, and they're going to have the players that they need healthy, especially Chase Utley. And, barring any significant injury to a Nationals player, they look like a team to beat the Nationals.
Yeah, I really feel like I feel like Philly's just. I mean, I think that their window's closed. They did what they did, in late 2000s, and I really feel like Ryan Howard. I think he'll be ready for the season, I believe. But Chase Utley, he hasn't really been able to stay healthy in a long time. Jimmy Rollins, his speed is all but gone. They got rid of Victorino. I can't even really name one of the other outfielders right now.
They got Hunter Pence.
Oh yeah, they did get Pence from the Astros. That's true. Okay, yeah, but I mean, I just feel like they're just not going to be able to keep up with the Nationals, the Braves, in the NL East, and then also with the wild card. Now they're two teams. I mean, you still got San Fran, you still got the Dodgers, who might have been the smartest team last year. They stockpiled on a lot of talent last year, so I really don't see the Phillies really making a wild card run either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. The Dodgers, they got that new ownership, and they have been spending money like it's never going to end.
Just look at their roster just from top to bottom. I mean, they picked up so many players.
They don't even have spots for them all.
Yeah, exactly. They had their nice young prospect shortstop D. Gordon. Now they might have to move him or bench him because they got Hanley Ramirez. Then they got Adrian Gonzalez, Carl Crawford. They had Matt Kemp. They had Andre Ethier. They're just such a solid lineup. And then they got probably the best pitcher in the National League in Clayton Kershaw. And they signed Zach Greinke.
They definitely bolstered their pitching staff. Offensively, they're ridiculous offensively. I don't think Carl Crawford. I think Carl Crawford will probably be traded because
think so already.
He's just not. His contract is way too much, and he's not ever really going to live up to that. He doesn't produce enough on the field for that type of contract he got. The only reason that the Red Sox gave him that deal was just to stop him from going to the Yankees, and the Yankees knew he wasn't worth more than maybe a 5-year deal, 4 or 5-year deal. So they jumped out there. They gave him.
He also hasn't been healthy since he got his contract either. So
exactly, and he's not getting any younger. He's 32, 33 now, and there's no DH in the National League, so he's either going to play or he's going to have to go somewhere else because they're not going to bench a guy making $19, $20 million.
I hear you. Okay. What about American League? Anything jump out? What do you think about the Angels?
I think the Angels are going to be the Angels. I think Albert Pujols got all the butterflies out about being a new team. I mean, he struggled last year and still hit 30 home runs and had 100 RBIs almost. So, he got that first season under his belt. They added Josh Hamilton to try to give him a little more. I think they still maybe need some more pitching. Maybe a couple of relievers. They got to get rid of Vernon Wells, and paying this guy $25 million to be a bum is just way too much. They've got to get rid of him and try to get some prospects or something. But I think
I feel like their top 5-6 offensive players are really, you can't really match it. Really anyone else in the American League, you're not going to match Pujols, Hamilton, Trout, Trumbo.
Yeah.
That's just a really deep at the top end of it. Once Howie Kendrick's pretty decent. Eric Ibar's pretty good. I just feel like they're a really solid team.
Yeah, they're definitely a solid team, and I see them contending, probably going to the World Series, at least to the ALCS, depending on what Detroit does. Their team is still the same; they're still dominant. The Yankees probably maybe get a wild card spot because of the injuries, because of the age. They let too many players go in free agency, so it's a long season. So we'll revisit the talk from time to time because like I said, this is basically a year-long, full year-long season when it comes to baseball. No team is ever really out of it until like the very end.
Right, especially with that playoff berth now. That really almost opens up another 10 teams in the last couple weeks to really still being able to contend.
Exactly.
It's cool, but it's good, but it's not. I like that it was exclusive. I don't really like in the basketball playoffs that more teams make the playoffs than don't. I really don't like that. Same with hockey. There's too many teams to make the playoffs. But I like that baseball was so exclusive. But now just adding that one game in there, you're really opening up so many teams that are fighting for the last couple weeks. It really kind of makes that last month matter. So
exactly.
That's one thing I really like about it.
All right, we're gonna take another quick commercial break here. Overtime Sports Radio Show. We'll be back in a minute.
Log in, FuegoBeats.com, YouTube, Mr. Fuego Beats.
What's going on? This is Fuego Beats from Fuego Beats Radio, and I want to tell everyone to check out the greatest sci-fi radio station out, Super 564 on Blog Talk Radio. They have the best topics, including sci-fi films, comic books, video games, and they even have a featured artist segment for musicians weekly. So if you have an obsession with sci-fi films, music, or video games like me, then this is the station for you. Make sure you check them out on blogtalkradio.com/Super564. That's blogtalkradio.com/SUPAFI64. All right? And remember, stay connected.
Hey, yo, what up? Welcome back to the Overtime Sports Radio Show. I'm your host, Tipsy. I got my boy Crossover with me. Crossover, was good?
Yes, sir. What's going on, guys?
Ain't nothing, sitting here enjoying the night, having a good conversation, talking sports. So, we've talked about a lot of things this evening. Baseball, basketball, football. I want to talk about something that don't usually talk about a lot of, and that's, we're going to talk about a little bit of golf real quick. Tiger Woods has been kind of getting his game together since the golf season started recently. He's definitely, I think he's in the lead, or he won the tournament that he's playing right now. He's been beasting. He's fallen off for a couple of years since he had that incident where he got caught cheating and his wife knocked him in the head with a golf club. So, he's been challenged by a couple of players. This guy Rory McIlroy, who is good. I've watched him a little bit, but I mean, Tiger Woods is just Tiger Woods. Like, if his mind is there, he's unstoppable. He's dominant. We know the Masters is coming up next month. So what do you think? You think Tiger Woods is in a position, just looking at what you've seen probably on SportsCenter or whatever the highlights of his game recently, you feel like Tiger Woods is Tiger Woods again, or is he still missing something?
You can't really ever be too sure. After the last couple of years, I mean, he's had his crazy incident, then he's been on and off injured. He's just been so inconsistent. He's gotten a good couple runs in some tournaments, and then he'll shoot a 80 and get eliminated day one. So I don't know. I mean, there's enough golfers out there. The Masters, you always have your Mickelsons and your Tigers and McElroys, those types of guys, and then you always have like one or two guys that are like 75 and trying to get that one last push, and
Yeah.
that's always the guy I always root for. So, I mean, the Masters are one of the most unpredictable tournaments, really in all sports. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I wouldn't feel confident. Used to be able to go pick Tiger or the field, and now you really can't pick anybody or the field. It's just such a deep pool of athletes or golfers.
Okay, I still think that anytime there's a major championship, a Masters, U.S. Open, PGA Championship, whatever, that if Tiger Woods is playing, you kind of always have to make him the favorite, especially since, keep in mind, a year ago, 2 years ago, he won the U.S. Open with a broken leg. So, I mean, I can't put anything past a guy that can play an entire golf tournament with a broken leg and win it, let alone it be a major championship, not even like a little off-brand little golf tournament. He won a major championship on a broken leg. These guys couldn't beat him. So, even with all his problems, getting his mind right, doing whatever he's doing or not doing, I think if he's in the tournament and he's healthy, you kind of always have to make him the favorite until he basically, self-destructs on himself. Other than that, I don't see how really anybody can go against him until that happens.
Mm-hmm. So you're taking Tiger. I'll take the field.
Yeah, you can take the field. I will take Tiger Woods right now. I've seen him play, and I've seen him play recently on TV, and right now he's like lights out. His putting game. Tiger's main problem is that he couldn't grasp his putting game mentally anymore after everything that happened. Once his putting game is on, he's going to be unbeatable because those bogeys now will become birdies once he starts hitting those things. Once those birdies start dropping and that confidence starts to build up as the tournament goes along, he's just going to see red and he's going to go for the neck. And if you can go for the neck on a broken leg, then you can definitely go for the neck healthy if everything is going on. So definitely, I would choose Tiger Woods right now as he's playing right now. Now if he starts to fall off, you still have to kind of pick him, but then you have to kind of pick him, with your hand a little shaky because maybe you realize he's not there that much. But I don't think, even as good as some of the other players are, even if they're having their best day and Tiger Woods is on, they don't stand a chance.
Okay. All right.
So you're gonna take the field at the Masters.
Yes, sir.
Take the field at the Masters. Take Tiger Woods, and we will come back to that after the Masters and see what happens. That's all the time we have for this evening. Thank you for listening. I'd like to thank Super 64, one of our affiliate radio stations. Be sure to check them out at Super 64. That's 64.com. Also, JSNL Clothing. Be sure to check them out for the clothing for men, women. They got watches, sunglasses. It's the best spot to buy the gear. Check for the promo codes. Free shipping. Everything over $50 is www.jsnlonline.com. Crossover, you got anything you want to plug? Anything you want people to check out dealing with you?
Yeah, I mean, March 29th, it's at a venue called VA Live Entertainment. It's in Chesapeake. It's a benefit concert, Music for More, to get musical equipment for Chesapeake City Public Schools. I'm going to be performing live with my friend's band, No Strings Attached, and yeah, it's going to be a really good time.
Tell them how they can get involved with that and know exactly, get a reminder of what's going on. What's your Facebook? What's your Twitter? Put that all out there so people can get to follow you and know what's going on and be able to show up.
Yeah. Facebook, Crossover 757. Twitter, Crossover 757. I'm not really on Twitter that much, but yeah, you just go on Facebook. The website's Music for More. You can look that up, and yeah, it's a 2-day festival. Proceeds are going to the charity for Chesapeake City Public Schools. I think it's about all I got on that. Yeah, 2 days, Friday night, Saturday, all day. So
All right,
yeah,
that's
it'll
good.
be a really cool time.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear. Make sure you go out there and support that, everybody. And you can follow me on Facebook at Tipsy McStagger. On Facebook, you can follow me on Twitter at King5950 for all sports news updates, anything dealing with the sports and entertainment world. I post everything, videos, whatever it is that's going on with pop culture, anything. Usually I have it on there. Be sure. I got a couple of things coming soon, working on some new music and everything. I'll be posting updates on that and posting new music on the sites. That's about it. Instagram, follow me at WCar1979. Post a lot of funny pictures and everything. Thank y'all for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back with you next week for another Overtime Sports Radio.